So your doctor looked at your blood test, pointed at your vitamin D level, and said, "You're fine." But your body's still moving like it's buffering in 240p, mood swings, bubble wrap joints, exhaustion so deep you could nap standing up. And yet, that one number is supposed to explain it all? Here's the uncomfortable truth. That vitamin D test you took, it's about as useful as checking your fridge light to see if the oven's working. Because what they tested, that 25OHD number, only shows what's floating around in your blood, not what's actually being used inside your cells. It's the storage form, like groceries in the pantry. The real question is, are you cooking with any of it? Spoiler, if your vitamin D receptor is busted, blocked, or genetically lazy, the answer is no. And here's the kicker. Up to 30% of the population has a built-in receptor issue. That means your vitamin D could be politely knocking on the door while your cells pretend they're not home. So if you've ever been told you're fine while feeling like a haunted Roomba, stick around, because I'm about to show you why your test might be lying to your face, and what most doctors never check that could explain everything. And stay till the end, because I'll reveal the one trick your cells use to ghost vitamin D entirely, even when your blood test looks perfect. All right, let's crack open that lab test you got, the one that says 25-hydroxy vitamin D, or if it wants to feel fancy, 25OHD. Now, here's what that actually means. That number is just the storage form of vitamin D floating around in your bloodstream. It's not the active form your body actually uses. It's basically the backup hard drive, not the program running. Imagine this. You open your fridge and see groceries. Cool, but you don't check if the stove works, the oven's on, or if your pan's on fire. That's what it's like to only test 25OHD. It looks useful, but it tells you jack about what your cells are actually doing with it. And this is where the confusion really kicks in, because depending on where you live, your test might be in nanograms per milliliter, ng for mil, or nanomoles per liter. They sound identical, but aren't. To convert, multiply by 2.5, because vitamin D testing isn't confusing enough, right? Oh, and if you're taking supplements, they're measured in IUs, which don't convert cleanly either. 1 IU of vitamin D3 equals 0.025 micrograms. And no, that's not a typo. It's just nutritional math being held hostage by chaos gremlins. The result? Most people look at their test results like they're reading alien blueprints. But here's where it gets really wild. Even if your 25OHD number looks okay, your body might not be using any of it. And that's not just inefficient, that's biochemical ghosting, which is exactly what we're diving into next. Here's the part where most people stop asking questions because the lab said your vitamin D level is within range. Sounds reassuring, right? Yeah, no. Because that normal range your doctor's using, it was designed to prevent rickets, not optimize your immune system, not prevent autoimmunity, and definitely not help your mitochondria do anything except cry quietly in the dark. Most labs slap a happy face on anything above 20 to 30 nanograms milliliter. But functional medicine experts, researchers, and people who actually read the science say the real sweet spot is 50 to 80 nanograms milliliter. Why the difference? Because lab ranges aren't based on what's ideal. They're based on the average of everyone who's already getting tested, aka a population that's already tired, inflamed, and probably thinks coffee is hydration. It's like setting the bar for normal lung capacity using a room full of smokers and asthmatics. Sure, your number's average, but average isn't good. Average is surviving, not thriving. Now here's where it gets messier. Let's say your level is at 35. Technically, normal. Really? But you still feel like your joints are made of regret and your brain forgot how to human. That's because normal doesn't mean optimal function. It just means you're not hospitalized yet. And if your vitamin D receptor's compromised, even 50 might not cut it. Because what looks fine on paper could be biochemical window dressing. Which brings us to the next plot twist. What if your body is blocking vitamin D altogether? All right, Let's say your vitamin D test looks solid. Maybe it even flirts with 50. But you still feel like a sleep-deprived sloth running on expired coffee and bad decisions. Here's the twist most doctors never check. You could have enough vitamin D in your blood, but your cells are straight up ghosting it. Meet the saboteur behind the scenes, the vitamin D receptor, aka VDR, the molecular bouncer that decides whether vitamin D gets into the cell or gets left outside swiping on Tinder. And here's the kicker. About 30% of people have a genetic variation that makes this receptor sluggish, stingy, or just plain dysfunctional. But wait, it gets darker. Certain viruses, bacteria, parasites, even some cancers can block or downgrade your vitamin D receptors on purpose. Yeah, like digital ad blockers, but for your immune system. Why? Because vitamin D is the immune system's secret weapon, and pathogens, they're not dumb. They know if vitamin D gets in, they're toast, so they shut the door, hard. Let me make this painfully clear. You could be swimming in vitamin D, and your immune system could still be starving, because the receptors are jammed, sabotaged, or genetically sleeping on the job. And when that happens, the risk doesn't just stay in the background. It starts showing up everywhere. From brain fog to autoimmunity to that random back pain you blamed on your office chair, which is exactly what we're about to unpack next. What conditions scream VDR dysfunction loudest, and what you can actually do about it. So now you know your vitamin D receptor might be playing defense against you. Cool, totally normal betrayal. But how do you know if it's actually happening? Here's a little checklist of fun things that might suggest your VDR is throwing a full-on biochemical tantrum. Autoimmune diseases, MS, lupus, Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis. If your immune system's attacking you like it's in a bar fight, guess what might be missing? Yep, active vitamin D. Cancers, especially breast and colon. Cancer cells literally downregulate the VDR to avoid getting obliterated. Classy. Cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, because your brain cells also need vitamin D to not forget how to brain. Diabetes, both type 1 and 2. Type 1 is autoimmune. Type 2 is metabolic chaos. Both love a good VDR issue. Asthma, allergies and chronic infections, TB, Lyme, even recurring colds. When your immune system's asleep at the wheel, suspect the receptor. Hair loss, gut issues, back pain, vitiligo, osteoporosis, PTSD. Yup, all potentially linked to vitamin D receptor dysfunction. Because when this thing malfunctions, it's not subtle. And if you're thinking, damn, I've got like 5 of those, you're not alone. A lot of people are walking around with normal vitamin D levels and 0 cellular access. But don't worry, there is a way to bypass the broken receptor system and still get your cells what they need. And that's what we're covering next, the tactical protocol to actually make vitamin D work for you. All right, your vitamin D is floating around like it owns the place, but your receptors are either ghosting it or sabotaged by viruses, genes, or general cellular pettiness. Now what? Simple. We hack the system. There's a whole squad of compounds that either boost VDR function, mimic vitamin D activation, or force the door open when the usual key doesn't work. Meet your receptor support squad. Magnesium, the MVP. Without it, vitamin D can't activate, can't bind, can't do squat. Vitamin D without magnesium is like Batman without Alfred. Technically still Batman, but lost, cranky, and weirdly ineffective. Zinc, omega-3s, and vitamin K2. They support signaling, receptor sensitivity, and keep inflammation in check, so D can do its job. Bile salts, yeah, bile, specifically TUDCA, acts like a vitamin D mimic, triggers the same genetic activation even if D can't get through the front door. It's like picking the lock on your DNA, but legally. Plant compounds, resveratrol, quercetin, sulforaphane, all shown to upregulate VDR and reduce the inflammation that blocks it in the first place. Butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid made by your gut microbes. You want more? Feed them fiber and fermented foods. Or go full keto and make it yourself. The point is, you're not helpless. Even if your receptors are drunk, broken, or on strike, you can still bypass the static and get results. Which brings us to the final play. How do you know if any of this is working? We're wrapping this up with a final recap that ties it all together and reveals the hidden sign your test can't show, but your body definitely does. All right, one last recap before your brain logs off to scroll memes and compare supplement bottles like Pokemon cards. You took the test. It said 30, maybe 40. Your doctor smiled, said you're fine, and floated away in a cloud of outdated lab ranges. But here's what we now know. That number? It's just what's circulating in your blood, like groceries sitting in the trunk. Your cells? They might still be starving, because if your vitamin D receptors are blocked, busted, or built like a boomer router, nothing's getting through. And that's why normal means nothing. You're not trying to exist. You're trying to function without needing a nap after brushing your teeth. The good news? You're not doomed. You've got options. Magnesium to flip the switch, K2 to move the calcium mobsters, bile salts to sneak vitamin D in like a biochemical Trojan horse. So yeah, your blood test might have lied, but now you've got the decoder ring. If you missed it, go check out 11 signs of vitamin D deficiency your doctor ignores. Because if your joints sound like popcorn and your brain feels like dial-up, that video is basically a mirror. And next, we drop the immune reset playlist, where fasting, high-dose D, cofactors, and actual cellular strategy join forces like the supplement Avengers, except cooler and slightly more sarcastic. So, subscribe, share, and maybe fix your damn receptors.